Oh, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Church Boy V, back with another one. Today we're gonna look at the history, the rise, and the fall of Chipotle. Y'all know I love history. I say it all the time, so it's gonna be interesting. And I'm mad with Chipotle. I don't eat Chipotle. My first experience. Now I'm telling to my coworker, working. I think it was 2-3 years ago. My coworker work at the time was hyping Chipotle up, like, hey, Chipotle good, man. You need to try it. Like, okay. So one lunch break, like, let's go to Chipotle. Let's try it out. He'll tell me how good it was. And I didn't know you can tell them what to put on your different, like, wraps and bowls and stuff. I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. Coworker didn't tell me that. So guess what I got? Rice and beans. And ever since that day, had beef with Chipotle ever since. So let's see the history and let's check it out, man. Y'all, I hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all taking care of yourselves physically, mentally, spiritually. And let's get into the video.
Chipotle is such an interesting restaurant because there is always something happening. It seems like every few weeks something happens that puts them right back into the news. In August of 2020, I made a video about Chipotle where I say, the reason I'm talking about Chipotle today is because the last 5 years for them have been outrageously eventful, possibly more so than any other restaurant. Mostly referring to their struggles associated with highly publicized foodborne illness outbreaks, mainly E. coli and norovirus that were linked to their restaurants. Well, here we are in 2026, and it has been another eventful 5 years. During that time, their sales have just about doubled, their net income has more than quadrupled, but mostly unchanged in 2025. Their reputation has fluctuated, to say the least, and their stock price has experienced a significant rise and then fall. Yeah, after peaking toward the end of 2024, it has fallen back down to about the same range it was 5 years ago. In 2025, in fact, it was one of the worst performing stocks in the S&P 500, losing almost 40% of its value throughout the year, while the overall index finished in the positive, reflecting the fact that investors have been losing confidence in Chipotle's future. In early 2024, they reported that their average unit volume, essentially their sales per location, had surpassed $3 million for the first time and expressed plans to eventually reach $4 million, hyping up a lot of people, but those plans have made very little progress over the past 2 years. Also, looking at a similar metric, comparable restaurant sales, well, they have decreased for the first time since they were dealing with those outbreaks almost a decade ago. Like I said, there is always something happening here. So in this video, I am excited to revisit this topic by outlining some of the biggest potential reasons behind these recent struggles. Starting out with a more speculative reason, new leadership. See, the founder of Chipotle, Steve Ells, led the company for its first 25 years before stepping down during the aftermath of those outbreaks. In 2018, Brian Niccol took over, and I think most would agree did a great job at recovering the brand. I even listed him as one of the reasons behind their comeback that continued on even stronger than I could have imagined. He actually came over from being the leader at Taco Bell, and moving the Chipotle headquarters from Colorado to California was at least partially done to attract him to the position. Well, in August of 2024, Brian Niccol left Chipotle to become the new head of Starbucks, which right away was viewed as bad news from most investors, who questioned if his replacement could live up to those high standards. He was replaced by Scott Boatwright, who had served as chief operating officer and worked closely with Brian Niccol for the entire time he was there. Now, I acknowledge that Boatwright was placed in a tough position, and I do not think he has done much to directly hurt the company. Let me know if you disagree, but there is clearly less confidence in him, and just looking at the correlation, things have not been going well since he took over. So as I go through the rest of my list, you can maybe determine if the factors are more of a result of mismanagement or beyond their control. Speaking of that list, my next reason being maybe a more controversial one, poor value. Chipotle is considered a pioneer in the fast casual category, first gaining traction in the 1990s by selling comparatively large burritos for under $5. Today, in most areas, you would be lucky to buy a burrito or a bowl for under $10, which can really start to get pricey if you go with the double meat or the guacamole or queso or anything else that costs extra, which when you factor in inflation can almost be expected, right? But over the past few years, economic factors have caused consumer spending to slow down, particularly among lower-income individuals who can no longer afford to eat at Chipotle as easily. In early 2026, there was a bit of controversy when during an earnings call, Scott Boatwright revealed that most of their core customers make over $100,000 a year, and they plan to lean into that group in a more meaningful way. Not necessarily meaning they're going to raise prices, they later denied that, but still shifting their focus away from 40% of their customers and most of the population. I think at least part of the reason here is that they definitely do not want to compete directly with Taco Bell, the only Mexican-inspired restaurant chain in the United States that is bigger and actually doing considerably better lately. Boatwright has said, value as a price point is not and will not be a Chipotle strategy. Maybe you remember that Chipotle was owned by McDonald's in the early 2000s, and they were the ones responsible for turning it into a national brand, growing it from 14 to 500 locations, while being sure it would not overlap with their core fast food markets. They have always had a distinct customer base, and it sounds like Chipotle may be trying to further separate themselves from fast food, which could mean alienating some existing customers. Aside from the prices, the portions have received a lot of criticism, especially in 2024, when there were rumors all around social media that Chipotle employees were being instructed to start serving smaller portions. Shrinkflation was the big word going around, and even though they denied the rumors that seemed to have been false, there's ongoing discussion about the portion consistency. They always...
And that's the thing, bro. Like, these fast food restaurants try to get over on us. Like, bro, you want us to spend all this money, but want to get small portions. Bro, make it make sense. How you lose your money? Small portions, but you want to charge. Like, bro, come on now. Like, stop it. Come on now. Don't play with us. Because we'll make sure y'all bankrupt. A lot of these fast food restaurants closing up now. Overpriced stuff, small portions. Really? Come on, man. Make it worth the money. That's all I gotta say.
Use that spoon instead of a more precise measuring device, so at least in my experience, there's no telling how much food they are going to scoop into there. To summarize here, I think we can understand where they're coming from with a lot of this, but still probably not a great sign when your prices and portions have become so highly criticized. Next up on the list is going to be market saturation, because Chipotle has been expanding faster than ever before. In fact, if you live in a smaller town, there is a decent chance that a Chipotle has opened up nearby over these past 5 years. In 2022, they celebrated opening their 3,000th location, and in 2025, they opened their 4,000th location. That is pretty fast, and they say that their ultimate plan is to reach 7,000 in North America, which would make them one of the top 10 restaurant chains on the continent. Now, the big question here in everyone's minds is whether or not there is enough demand for 7,000 Chipotles, and the answer is unclear. Just looking at the fact that their comparable restaurant sales have fallen in 2025 means that the main reasons their overall sales have continued to go up is because, well, they've raised their prices and because they opened over 300 new locations, averaging almost one every day throughout the year. Their transactions have fell almost 3%, meaning Chipotle has had less traffic throughout the year. And then you have to think about how leaning into higher income customers like they plan to do could potentially narrow their customer base. So again, there are many factors behind this, but it can be hard to justify 7,000 locations while 4,000 is already not quite living up to expectations. And then we also have to account for the next reason on my list, competition. Like I said, they have always been careful to stay within that fast casual market that they helped popularize, which forces them to compete with a bunch of emerging chains like Raising Cane's or Dave's Hot Chicken, to name a few, that were not nearly as much of a factor 5 years ago. And they compete more directly with restaurants like Qdoba, which is extremely similar and has attracted customers away by offering them free queso and guacamole, which, as I mentioned, are considered extras at Chipotle. In fact, I think it's interesting that one of the top comments on my previous video said, charging $2 for a slice of avocado should be considered a criminal offense. Qdoba currently has around 850 locations and plans to more than double that to 2,000 over the next decade. Cava is another competitor worth mentioning. They're kind of like a Mediterranean version of Chipotle that also plans to grow, this time from 400 to 1,000 locations by 2032. So even though Chipotle is currently the leader of that fast casual market, it might start getting a little crowded, and as customers are presented with more options, it forces Chipotle to provide more reason to go there over those others, leading me into the next reason on my list, becoming stale. And I'm not saying that the tortillas are getting old and going bad at the restaurants. I'm saying that the restaurants themselves may be lacking excitement and becoming overlooked. Chipotle has been offering a similar experience with a similar menu for decades, and traffic may be going down simply because they're not grabbing our attention. To address this, they said that they might start testing what they call a happier hour, designed to attract customers during slower periods of the day with special deals like bundling food and drinks together. Compared to 5 years ago, they had been offering a lot more limited time menu items with different levels of success. Probably the most successful one has been Chicken Al Pastor that was brought back in 2026 due to popular demand. I imagine that one might even turn into a McRib type situation where it continues coming back every year. I don't know, but there have been some tasty new menu items that have been promoted with higher marketing budgets on television and social media. At the end of 2025, it's worth mentioning that they introduced a high-protein menu designed to attract GLP-1 customers that features a 32-gram high-protein cup. So at the very least, they recognize that attracting customers and giving them a reason to visit regularly has been an issue, and I would say that there have been some strong efforts to address it. The final reason on my list is more of a summary of everything else I've been talking about, and that is a bad reputation. As far as I could tell, Chipotle used to be a fairly well-liked brand, with long lines probably being the most common criticism, but now it is not quite the same. Obviously, those outbreaks were not helpful to the reputation, but here we are about a decade later, and still, there's so much negativity surrounding the brand. I guess it all depends on who you talk to and where you go on the internet, but a lot of people are not happy with them. Trust me, if you look at the comment section of this video, you will see people criticizing their portions, prices, menu items, the people that work there. In 2025, Scott Boatwright admitted, our team members got so focused on creating the experience efficiently that they can just forget to smile. So I guess in trying to address those long wait times, they somehow started to become less friendly. Overall, it feels like the public's perception of Chipotle has been declining. Nowhere near rock bottom, I want to make that clear, but not as strong as it used to be. And that can be concerning when looking toward that ultimate goal of 7,000 locations that sell an average of $4 million per year, which would be $28 billion in total. So a lot of things have to go right for that to happen. Let me know in the comments, what has been your experience with Chipotle, and how does it compare to 5 years ago? Have any of the limited time menu items caught your interest, and what is your overall review of the restaurant? Have people been a little too hard on it, or has most of the criticism been deserved? Also, do you agree with the reasons on my list behind the recent struggles? And maybe more importantly, what do you see for the future? Will they recover and ultimately reach those goals, or will there be less of a reason to eat at Chipotle compared to the almost overwhelming number of alternatives within that category? It is so hard to predict one way or the other, but either way, I imagine big things will continue to happen. They always seem to. And any other thoughts you have about Chipotle, leave them in the comment.
I don't know. I don't have to eat Chipotle in years. They just I hear people talk about Chipotle every once in a while, so I think they should be alright. The thing is about these fast food places, make the portions make sense. If you're gonna charge a lot, man, there's a lot of stuff on there. If you're gonna charge and give us a little, them the big ways to run people off. So that's how I look at it. Make it make sense with these portion sizes and the prices, and you'll be good. And trying to look, try to make your stuff to a certain demographic, it can backfire or it could be good. So I just say be careful with that, because backfire is gonna cost you a lot of money. So Love y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, myself. Love you. Y'all have a great day. Accept Christ. And y'all have a good one, man. We out.